Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has just lost her top staffers, notably Saikat Chakrabarti, and this is coming shortly after this huge feud with Nancy Pelosi and the House Democrats that made the Democrats look really, really bad. Now, there's a lot of context in this story. I don't know exactly why he's out. He's moving to a nonprofit to focus on climate change, and there's some context there we'll get into later. But I will point out Donald Trump has successfully played the Democrats off each other, made them fight, and then rally around the far-left progressive squad Democrats. These are people most Americans in swing states don't like. I believe Trump knows what he's doing. I recently made a video addressing how Trump had enacted new policies to restrict asylum for Central American migrants and then put out all of these tweets that immediately distracted everybody. Now, the media was quick to point out the first ruse from Trump, that he was trying to get the Democrats to circle the wagons around unpopular politicians, Ilhan Omar and Ocasio-Cortez, but that they were ignoring the policy decisions Trump was doing. Now we're seeing the aftermath of that whole 2-week news cycle. Saikat Chakrabarti is out. Now, this is coming at a time where the Democrats are having their debates. We're hearing Chris Cuomo say the party doesn't have its head on straight. Bill Maher slamming Democrats because Obama now isn't woke enough. And we've got a lot of other stories that I want to go through. I also want to go through the Detroit debates, where this leaves the Democrats. Biden clearly in first, but let's start with the real news here. Saikat Chakrabarti is out. Now, before we get started, head over to timcast.com/donate if you'd like to support my work. There's a PayPal option, a crypto option, a physical address, but of course, the best thing you can do, share this video, because YouTube has deranked independent political commentary, meaning it's much harder for me to grow the channel, reach new viewers, and actually get you, the people who actually watch my content, to even see it. If you think these videos are good, please consider sharing them on various social media platforms to help keep the channel going. Let's read. AOC loses top staffers following controversies from the New York Post. They say 2 top staffers are leaving her congressional office following a firestorm of controversy. Her chief of staff, Saikat Chakrabarti, is done as of Friday. Ocasio-Cortez's communications director, Corbin Trent, plans to be her congressional spokesman until the end of the month, but will then transition to her 2020 campaign to play the same role. So she's losing her spokesman, but he's going to be working on her re-election campaign, so he's not really going anywhere. Chakrabarti will head to New Consensus, a nonprofit climate change group that helps promote the Green New Deal. The Intercept first reported the departures, which were confirmed by the Post Friday. Chakrabarti and Trent's aggressive tactics often made life harder for Ocasio-Cortez in Washington. Chakrabarti helped spark the rift between Ocasio-Cortez and House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and others when he likened moderate Democrats to new Southern Democrats in a tweet, in effect calling them racists. He particularly targeted moderate Rep. Sharice Davids, a Democrat from a formerly red Kansas district, who was one of the 2 Native American women serving in Congress. Chakrabarti said Davids voted in a way that helped enable a racist system, when she voted in favor of a bill that would provide southern border relief. The tweet was deleted, but the damage was done. Now we saw the results of this. It was actually really weird. This tweet has since been deleted, but following this, the House Democrats' verified account tweeted, "Who is this guy, and why is he explicitly singling out a Native American woman of color? Her name is Congresswoman Davids, not Sharice. She is a phenomenal new member who flipped a red seat blue. Keep her name out of your mouth," with clapping emojis. This tweet, my understanding is now, it's been deleted. I'm pretty sure it's been deleted, so I pulled up the archive to try and find it. This was an insane news cycle. You can't out-woke someone like Saikat Chakrabarti. It can't be done. If he is going to target a Native American woman and throw, name-calling, calling her racist, essentially, what do you think you're going to be able to do by firing back, calling him racist? It won't work. But I will say this. Saikat Chakrabarti being ousted, in my opinion, entirely predictable. He started a fight. He made the Democrats look bad. And in the end, who do you think will have to leave? Ocasio-Cortez? No, she's in Congress. Sharice Davids? No, she's in Congress. How about an employee? Saikat Chakrabarti. Yup. So he's gone. Let's read on. The remark was widely criticized and prompted a tweet from the House Democrats account, which we read what they said. Chakrabarti also regularly tweeted criticism of Pelosi, who sat down with Ocasio-Cortez last Friday to clear the air in a closed-door caucus meeting. The speaker had urged the socially savvy freshman to stop tweeting about other House Dems in June. Trent also generated negative press for his boss when he dropped the F-bomb while calling out a potential Republican challenger on Twitter. Yo, Rich Valdez. What the actual F makes you think you're entitled to a debate with AOC? Trent tweeted, pro tip, stalking her at a parade ain't gonna make it any more likely to happen. If there's gonna be a challenger of Ocasio-Cortez, she should debate him. It's really funny how when Ben Shapiro challenged her to a debate, they all said, you're not even running against her. There's no reason for her to debate you. Well, now she has a potential Republican challenger. Shouldn't she debate him? Apparently, no. Apparently, her spokesman will come out, drop some F-bombs, and say, you're not entitled to this. I believe that these far-left Democrats like AOC are inept, ignorant, and dangerous. You know, we can look at the Amazon deal, the repeated gaffes, and the Green New Deal are great examples. The Green New Deal, in my opinion, is a slap in the face to real environmentalists. I'm going to say this, and I mean this, as somebody who worked for several nonprofits on environmental issues, if you didn't read that bill, if you aren't following this news, if you support the Green New Deal, you are no friend of environmentalism. That's my opinion, okay? Because the bill isn't about the environment, and I'm going to bring that up next in my criticism of Saikat Chakrabarti. Let's read on. They say, both aides followed the New York Democrat to D.C. after working on her successful primary campaign, in which she toppled Rep. Joe Crowley as the leaders of the Justice Democrats, an insurgent group that tried to oust Democratic incumbents and replace them with more progressives more in line with Bernie Sanders. The finances surrounding Justice Democrats have also generated bad press. The group attracted 3 Federal Election Commission complaints filed by conservative groups because of an odd setup in which money from the PAC flowed into 2 limited liability companies controlled by Chakrabarti. Ocasio-Cortez didn't require Chakrabarti nor Trent to disclose their personal finances. Members can designate any member of their staff a principal assistant, forcing them to file forms, annual financial disclosure forms. Both AOC and Trent painted a rosy picture of the departures. Her office told The Intercept that aides leaving was planned before the most recent dust-up between AOC and other members of the so-called squad and House leadership. Saikat has decided to leave the office of Rep. Ocasio-Cortez to work with new consensus to further develop plans for a Green New Deal. We are extraordinarily grateful for his service to advance a bold agenda and improve the lives of the people of NY14. From his co-founding of Justice Democrats to his work with Ocasio-Cortez campaign and in her official office, Saikat's goal has always been to do whatever he can to help the larger progressive movement, and we look forward to continuing work with him to do that. They then went on to say that Trent will be working on her campaign. Now, here's the thing. Chakrabarti, AOC, Kyle Kulinski, Cenk Uygur, the principles of Justice Democrats and this new progressive movement, it now seems that for the most part, all that's left is AOC. Now let's get into some of the criticism about Saikat Chakrabarti before we move on to the bigger story that is the criticism the Democrats are facing in the bigger picture. Now, Chakrabarti is going to head to New Consensus, a nonprofit climate change group that helps promote the Green New Deal. However, we saw this story a couple weeks ago. AOC's chief of staff admits the Green New Deal is not about climate change. And this is what I meant when I said it's offensive to environmentalists. You know what? Most people vote on tribal lines. Most people are going to say, how dare you criticize, this group, Tim? I'll tell you, it's very simple. Okay, you want to win on environmental issues, you need bipartisan support, period. Now, the left keeps saying we got to push a progressive agenda, we got to go far left. Well, good luck on that. You're not going to force anybody to do anything. You need to win over hearts and minds. We are not an authoritarian nation, for the most part. I'll say that for the most part. We kind of are. But as citizens, at least, we do have rights. And that means while the government can do things, there's a lot of things it can't do. And it can't force people without the rule of law, without rules being passed through our congressional system and other measures, precedent set by the Supreme Court. It's complicated. But look, if you want to win this, you've got to get votes. You've got to get votes from the people. You've got to get votes from Congress. And you've got to get it signed by the president. You can't just force it in. So here's what they do. Manipulation and coercion. In a quote, Saikat Chakrabarti said it wasn't a climate thing at all. Check it out. The interesting thing about the Green New Deal is it wasn't originally a climate thing at all. Chakrabarti said to Inslee's climate director, Sam Ricketts, according to a Washington Post reporter who attended the meeting for a profile published Wednesday. Do you guys think of it as a climate thing? Because we really think of it as a how do you change the entire economy thing. And there you have it. They go on to say, it would also, according to its proponents, advance social, economic, racial, regional, and gender-based justice and equality, and cooperative and public ownership. Socialism and identitarianism. They say all told, the proposal will cost $93 trillion in new government spending over 10 years, according to a recent report by the conservative American Action Forum. I was talking to someone on the left, a progressive, who likes AOC, and they asked me if I liked the Green New Deal, and I said, I don't. And they were like, but why? Aren't you environmentalist? And I said, yeah, but did you read it? It's like 2 paragraphs talking about the environment, and the rest goes into socialism. University for people, like for all, healthcare for all. The FAQ said wage for those unwilling to wages, guaranteed income for those unwilling to work. The whole thing, it's more focused on how to give people money from the government and tax people than it is how to actually deal with the climate crisis. They don't care about this. They've found a Trojan horse to play on our emotions and manipulate the left to get what they want. So no, I don't like it. But you know what? I decided to move on to, I decided to include other stories in the segment because I believe what we're seeing with AOC is a good example of what's wrong with the Democrats. I really do mean it. Take a look at this story from the Washington Examiner. Now, of course, they will highlight this. They're more conservative. CNN's Chris Cuomo has a 2020 take. The Democratic Party, quote, doesn't have its head right. I believe or what he actually said was, quote, I think this party does not have its head right in response to a question. He goes on to question whether the Democrats are doing the right thing and how they're framing things. But for the most part, he brings up kind of how they're not framing things correctly. They're getting too specific. In the segment, he says things like, you got to just tell the people you're going to help them, you're going to do right, and don't get into the nitty gritty. But Bill Maher has a little bit better criticism. He says, he mocks the Democratic debates. So Obama is, quote, not woke enough now. Maher, who called on several candidates weeks ago to get the F out, recapped how the Democratic candidates went after the president hard. Unfortunately, the president was Obama. The guy with the 97% approval rating among the Democrats, Maher said, with bewilderment. His S is not woke enough now. He joked Trump saw that, called Putin, and said, I got this one. Good on Bill Maher for bringing this up. This was my segment yesterday. The Democrats have gotten so woke, Obama is far right. Obama is a Republican. I kid you not. Okay? I know it's a little hyperbolic, but I will tell you this. Take one of Obama's policy proposals, go on Twitter and tweet it, and wait and see how long it takes for someone to come out and say you're far right for posting that. Not exaggerating. I am serious. If you tweeted that you supported the border facilities that detained these kids, they will say, well, but because you're a far right fascist, except Obama built them. If you tweeted right now that you want Trump to deport 3 million people by the end of his term, they will say you're far right, but that's what Obama did. You could talk about the NDAA, and they will say, oh my God, you're fascist. You can talk about the AUMF, oh my God, you're fascist. You can talk about the disposition matrix, the drone strikes, Yemen, Saudi Arabia. The list goes on, and they will say fascist, fascist, fascist. Obama's policies are fascist, according to the left. And that's why the Democrats on stage, who are chasing after Ocasio-Cortez and pushing this nonsense, are looking nuts. Check this out. Round 2 of Democratic debates does little to change voters' minds. Vote choice among potential Democratic primary voters for front-runner candidates. And Joe Biden is at 32%. He started at 31,725. A few days have gone by. He's gone up, gone down a little bit. He's the front-runner. You know why? It may shock people to find that Barack Obama is still very popular. As Bill Maher pointed out, 97% approval among Democrats. So yes, people are looking at Joe Biden as bringing back the Obama years. So they want to vote for him. He is a very popular candidate who is centrist, public option type. He's not going far left. He's in line with Obama. Unfortunately, the woke left are, they're going to be voting in the primaries. And they're a big portion, maybe 30%, if I extrapolate some of the data. There was an article I read showing data that said 3 out of 10 primary voters want to abolish ICE. So that's a decent amount who are woke, and that's what they're trying to get. That's a big bunch. But then I have to wonder, are they sacrificing that other 70%? 32% are in favor of Joe Biden. Next, you have Kamala Harris in terms of like the more centrist types at 10%. You have Buttigieg around 6%. Bernie Sanders and Warren. Bernie's at 18, Warren's at 15. Bernie and Warren are the more far left, with Elizabeth Warren being kind of far left, but not trying to embrace the socialism thing because that is a lose, lose, lose. In the segment from that I just showed you with Chris Cuomo, he said when looking at the data, they can see that any person who can reasonably be identified as a socialist will be 6 points down from Trump in the election. That's why Joe Biden is on top. Joe Biden has around basically the same percentage as Bernie and Elizabeth Warren combined, which means when it comes time for the primary, Bernie will likely win, and we will get a tepid, centrist type who doesn't have the strength to win on his own. And look, I'm not trying to drag Biden over being a centrist, by no means. I'm trying to drag him for not being strong enough to go up against Trump. Biden couldn't win the presidency on his own. He became the VP for Obama. Obama had the strength to win twice. So now there's something interesting with the incumbent advantage that we're going to see here. With all of these Democrats pushing far left, desperately trying to get that base, Trump doesn't have that problem right now with a primary. He's the incumbent. It's just him. We're not going to see attacks. We're not going to see Trump trying to embrace, populist narratives that are more extreme than the public wants. He can play it straight down the middle, straight for the general, going straight for the moderates. I think he's putting the moderates at risk because his tweets are bombastic. Be careful, But as I pointed out several times now, in a poll the other day, a Harris X poll that I highlighted, we can see that the center in this country believes the left, 40% of moderates believe the left is going too far left, and 33% believe the right is going too far right. So Republicans have the advantage. With the attacks on Joe Biden, they run the risk of hurting him in the general, which is exactly what's going to happen. I believe right now, it's entirely possible Joe Biden does win, but I'm putting my bet on Kamala Harris because she is not the woke far left. She is the crony Democrat establishment type. She's at a low point right now. Biden's really high, but I think the play is to have her steal Biden's thunder. That's why they keep putting her next to him. That's why she keeps going after him. She wants to steal that thunder, become the front runner. She calls herself a top tier candidate. Oh, please, you're not in the top three. You want to talk top tier? It's Joe, Bernie, and Elizabeth, but fine, you're number 4. That's your opinion. Andrew Yang then is a top tier candidate. He's being included in this as well. But I do want to hit a few other points as we move forward that I've brought up. The Washington Post highlights something that I've said time and time again. Forget moderates versus radicals. The debate was a left versus far left brawl. And I'm not going to read through this, but I just like the headline to iterate this point that we're looking at the emergence of a new political party. I was talking to some friends who are lifelong Democrats, and I said, what do you think about immigration? What do you think about the Equality Act? And invariably, these friends, it's anecdotal, by the way, it's just me trying to get a sense of people who aren't political. They were opposed to these things. The Equality Act is fine for the most part, in my opinion, but the problem right now is you have that story of that trans woman who wants to get their genitals waxed by women and force them to do it, has actually spooked some people I know saying that's ridiculous. I'm kind of worried about that now. But the bigger issue is immigration. I don't have one friend I asked who are like open borders is a good idea. I don't. Like, I don't hang out with overt libertarian types, far right, far left, who are like borders are meaningless. I have like friends who just voted for Obama twice, didn't vote for Trump, voted for Hillary. And I say, what about border security? And they're like, man, this is crazy. It's like, we're having a crisis. What are we going to do about it? And I said, so you think we should secure the borders? They're like, yes. You think, a business shouldn't be forced to provide waxing service for, a woman on a man? No, of course not. I said, okay, what about like the issues of trans politics? And they're like, I don't know, man. I'm getting freaked out. That's just the opinion of people I know from the Chicagoland area who are lifelong Democrats. And of course, that the left is going to be like, Tim's lying. And I'm not lying. And if you don't want to believe it, fine. But the data shows it. Biden is the front runner. These politics, these ideas don't work. So here's what I'm seeing now. I had one of my friends say, they're still a Democrat. These other people aren't Democrats. They say, oh, Bernie Sanders is not a Democrat. He was an independent. These people are only pretending to be Democrats. These far left talking points are not Democrats. The Democrats don't agree with this. And I have to say, you know what? You're probably right. According to Gallup and Pew, 54% of Democrats want more moderate policy, where around 44% want more progressive policy. But that's just it. These people I know are in the majority according to Pew and Gallup, but there still is a massive number of Democrats that want to go further left, in which case it's the emergence of a new party. Moderate Democrats and far left Democrats do not agree policy-wise, and that's what we're seeing in the Democratic debates. The problem is it's the far left activists who are voting in the primary and going to get people elected. But let's move on from this point. So this is just a rehash of the first story. I should have had this one closed. I want to highlight this as we move on and potentially have this one be the. We'll have a couple more points to make. This is a story from CNBC. Payrolls rise 164,000 as labor force sets a record high. That's going to be hard to beat. You can posture all you want. You can talk about Trump's bigotry. You can talk about wokeness, but Americans are looking at a record economy. Their wages are up. Here it is. Here's the data. Wages increased 3.2% year over year, topping expectations by 0.1 of a percentage point. Average weekly hours edged lower to 34.3. The total labor force came in at a record high, 163.4 million. Wages are up and the labor force is up. It's huge. It's just great news for Trump. Meanwhile, what do we have from Democrats? We have the wokeness, the collapse. We have the shakeup even within the far left, with Saikat Chakrabarti being ousted. We have this story recently, just today, from The Hill. Democrats demonize wealthy to deflect from disastrous agendas. We have this story from July 9th. From Kamala Harris and Biden to Nancy Pelosi and AOC, the Democratic Party is a mess. And we can top it all off with the sweet, glorious, when Kamala Harris is made to look bad and the hashtag Kamala Harris destroyed trends, they go on to claim that, I kid you not, did Kamala Harris destroyed go viral naturally, or did Russian bots have something to do with it? Let me tell you something, Democrats. I've been a Democrat my whole life. I voted like one time. I'm pretty sure I only voted for Obama once, and that was about it. But I grew up in a family of Democrats in Chicago with punk friends on the left. I have never had a friend who was like, the Republicans were just not part of our sphere. I am here, and I am telling you, these things I'm showing you exist. Bill Maher has been calling you out. Bill Maher recently said all they had to do was find someone less crazy than Trump, and they're failing at that. He said even Obama isn't woke enough for you. Chris Cuomo said you don't got your head on right. AOC's staff is being shaken up amid chaos with the House Democrats fighting. And I'm telling you what I'm seeing. And what do they do instead? La with their ears plugged. And their response to Tulsi Gabbard slamming Kamala Harris is, was it Russian bots? Where do you live? The ivory tower has room for so few people. There's like 10 people atop this tower with millions on the ground level looking up while the crazy people scream Russian from the high heavens. Russia! Russia, they yell as their party is in shambles. And op-ed after op-ed and scandal after scandal show it to be true. Look, man, I'm a reasonable person, okay? I like what Tulsi Gabbard has to offer. She's not perfect. She's done some things she's got some policy positions I don't agree with. But here's the reality. You never support someone completely, for the most part. I get it. There's some people who are probably going to say Trump's doing the right thing no matter what. Not me. I vote on principle, okay? And that means I'm not going to vote for the lesser of two evils, but I'm going to recognize I'm never going to find myself as a candidate unless I vote for myself. So I'll say this. When Tulsi goes up, I say she recently qualified for the third debate. So I'm like, great, awesome, excellent. She's not going to make it in the polls. We'll see what happens. Same is true for Yang. He might make it. We'll see what happens. The response of the Democrats is that they're so oblivious to the fact that there are moderates in this country who want a Democrat to vote for. They think we don't exist. They smear us. And then they say it certainly must be Russians who are tweeting this out. I'm not Russian. I'm a mixed race high school dropout from the south side of Chicago. I am your constituent. I am exactly who you were supposed to be able to win over. I am, I guess technically a person of color who never completed high school. But no, they can't do it. All they had to do was be less crazy than Trump. I agree with Bill Maher. Man, I remember growing up watching Bill Maher 10, 12 years ago and loving it and laughing. I remember watching George Carlin, loving it and laughing. Where are we today? Family Guy is too offensive to exist on the internet. I can't say certain words. This is not what I want for the future. And I have been a lifelong liberal. So I'm sorry, no. Free speech and criticizing a corporate crony, Kamala Harris, who locked people up for smoking pot, who kept people in prison for cheap labor, and kept someone on death row and refused to release evidence, at least according to what Gabbard was saying. No, I don't like that woman, and I'm going to speak out against her. And no, we're not Russian bots for saying so. Even the conservatives, who are critical of what Tulsi Gabbard had to say about Trump, who are critical of her support of certain bills, will point out she's got more principle in her pinky than Kamala Harris has in her entire body, and they're going to tweet this out as well. No, it's not Russian bots. So let me just finalize this whole segment. The big breaking story here, the lead. Saikat Chakrabarti's out. Chaos and turmoil in the far left. They don't have their heads on right. That's my opinion. It's also Chris Cuomo's opinion for the most part. At least that's what he said. You can tell they don't necessarily know what they're doing. They're too wild and out there, and thus the turmoil erupts. The fighting goes crazy. Then you look at the debates, they're embracing people like Cortez. She's the last person you should be trying to emulate. She just lost her chief of staff amid controversies when he was calling the Democrats racist, essentially calling them racist. But they're trying. So look, if I can show you these stories, story after story, saying it's a mess, and then they act like my opinion is unique. Oh, Tim's just throwing red meat to Republicans. No, I'm throwing red meat to moderates. I don't know if I'm even doing that. I'll tell you what I'm doing. I have an opinion. This is how I feel. These are the stories I see. If you don't want to listen to me, you'll lose my vote and Trump will win. Don't care. They don't care either. They don't care if they've lost me already. Fine. Whatever, man. I'm going to vote independent or something, I guess. Anyway, I'll wrap it up there. Stick around. Next segment will be coming up at youtube.com/TimCastNews, 6 p.m. Thanks for hanging out. I will see you all in the next segment.